The World to Come. The Restored Church of God presents David C. Pack, answering life's greatest questions straight from the Bible and announcing the wonderful good news of the world to come.
Events will soon unfold in Europe that will shake the world. A superpower will arise. Wielding enormous political, economic, and military power, it will challenge the world's greatest nations for global supremacy. 10 nations will combine to impose their agenda on an unsuspecting world. These will work in tandem with a great religious power. Where will this union come from? How will it operate? How will it work with the religious power? Is there European precedent? The answers will affect you. In fact, everything around you will change. Stay here. Watch this entire broadcast. The world is a dangerous place, and never more so than now. The threats of global terrorism, rogue nations, economic collapse, and nuclear proliferation are ever present, to name a few. There also exists a lack of leadership in the world. The United Nations is at best ineffective. America is in steep decline. Russia is rebuilding. China is rapidly emerging. The European Union is striving to integrate. No clear leader is evident. Seeing the void, Pope Benedict has called for a world political authority with real teeth, with power to enforce its rules upon all nations. Will this happen? What does Bible prophecy reveal? Pope John Paul II called for Europe to return to its roots, to recapture what made it great. Benedict repeated this. Many others have called on Europe to take the mantle of global leadership. For 500 years, Europe has played the leading role in shaping the world. The continent has produced matchless advances in science, business, education, agriculture, technology, art, architecture, and music. Think, monumental historical developments began in Europe before impacting other continents. The Renaissance, the French Revolution, the Industrial Revolution, and 2 world wars. The richest and most powerful nations in history have been European, or those founded by their descendants. In short, Europe has been the axis around which the world has revolved. And yet at this time, the continent is troubled, beset by problems of every kind. Economic stagnation, terrorism, illegal immigration, low birth rates, widespread crime, clashes of culture, and difficulties with integration, among others. The result? Europeans have become disenchanted with their leaders. In European Union elections, citizens showed their displeasure by voting out several center-left incumbents, in some cases installing right-wing extremists they would never have previously considered. Feeling their concerns are ignored, many are unhappy. Both the current and previous pope identified Europe's problems as spiritual. For over 1,000 years, religion has played the biggest role in shaping the continent. It has been the only glue capable, albeit always temporary, of galvanizing diverse cultures and competing national agendas. As problems multiply, Europeans are looking for direction, for someone with a map and compass to lead them out of their troubles and to provide real solutions. At the same time, the Vatican is concerned about the state of Europe and of the world. A strong leader is vital. Will one arise? What role will religion play? To answer these questions, it is crucial to first understand the 1,500-year relationship between Europe and the Vatican. In AD 324, the Roman Emperor Constantine, after seeing a vision, established Christianity as the official religion of the Roman Empire. Until that time, professing Christians lived under constant threat of persecution. Countless numbers were put to death, often in horrible fashion. In 325, Constantine convened the Council of Nicaea to settle doctrinal disputes. Most accepted its decrees. Those who did not were forced to flee for their lives. especially after the Council of Laodicea in 363 decreed Sunday as the official day of Christian worship, replacing God's seventh-day Sabbath. The church at Rome was now a key player in Europe's affairs. Over the next 300 years, its influence grew. In 476, however, the unthinkable happened. The powerful Roman Empire fell to barbaric German tribes. This colossal event rocked both Europe and the Vatican. After Rome fell, the papacy worked behind the scenes to eliminate the invaders. In 554, Justinian restored the empire as the Holy Roman Empire. This was significant. Holy was added to signify God's kingdom on earth. This began the Vatican's role as the most influential factor in selecting the emperor. From this time forward, the relationship of church and state would be the primary driver of European affairs. The emperor ensured the state carried out the church's wishes. In return, the church's support gave him credibility with the people. The Vatican was now the dominant player in Europe. The empire declined after Justinian's death in 565. Over the next 200 years, it would ebb and flow with successive rulers, never returning to its former glory. During the 8th century, a powerful Germanic Frankish kingdom emerged in France and Germany. In 732, the Franks rescued Europe from invasion by defeating the Muslim Saracens in a momentous victory at Tours, France. A grateful Vatican recognized the Franks as the defenders of Christianity. After the Frankish Emperor Pepin died in 768, his son Charles took the throne. He would become known as Charlemagne, or Charles the Great, or to the Germans, Karl der Grosse. Charles immediately undertook several military campaigns, successfully uniting Western Europe. Responding to a desperate plea for help from Pope Adrian I, Charles defeated the Lombards and in the process united Italy. After several victorious campaigns and a generous donation of land to the church, Charles was hailed as defender and guardian of the Christian faith. The alliance between the church and the Franks was strengthened. Charles' defining moment came in 800. Pope Leo III crowned him Imperator Romanorum, Emperor of the Romans. The crowning cemented the marriage between church and state and restored the Holy Roman Empire. Most significantly, it elevated the church above the secular power and showed the crown to be the pope's to give and to take away. Another pope would later declare, "There must accordingly exist between these two powers, church and state, a certain orderly connection which may be compared to the union of the soul and body in man." So very telling. Europe fell into disarray after Charlemagne's death as foreigners continually invaded the continent. Time and again, the church and various governments were at loggerheads. Disunity reigned. Weakness in the church proved to be tied to weakness in Europe, and vice versa. Both awaited a leader to point the way forward. In 936, Otto the Great, son of a Saxon duke, came to power, having been elected by participants who raised their right hand and shouted, "Sieg und Heil," victory and salvation, similar to the Nazis. Otto then went about expanding his kingdom. The continent drifted into another period of decline. Pope John XII in 961 asked Otto to restore order and defend the church. Otto soon swept into Italy and defeated all enemies. The grateful pontiff crowned him Holy Roman Emperor. Once again, church and state moved together. Otto's kingdom was the beginning of what would be called the Holy Roman Empire of the German nation. This was the First Reich, or empire. The Holy Roman Empire and Germany were now forever linked, with German leaders assuming the mantle of kingship with the imperial crown, the symbol of European unity, on their heads. Germany became Europe's power center. However, a struggle for power between church and state developed throughout the Middle Ages. Again, Europe declined. In the 11 and 1200s, Europeans launched unsuccessful crusades to take Jerusalem from the Muslims. In 1453, disaster struck. Constantinople, capital of the Eastern Roman Empire, known as the Byzantine Empire, fell to the Muslim Turks. A shaky Europe desperately looked for a strong leader to lead it back to its proper place. In the 1500s, an influential Germanic family, the Habsburgs, came to prominence, having amassed huge swaths of land across Europe. Pope Clement crowned Charles V Holy Roman Emperor in 1530, making him defender of the faith. The Habsburgs, through marriages, were so connected with Spanish, Dutch, and other European royalty that Charles' empire stretched from Europe to South America. Through Charles' efforts, the Habsburgs controlled a vast global empire, the first of modern times. He proudly declared, "In my realm the sun never sets." Charles' goal was all Europe under one religion. This idea endured with the move toward a united Europe and religious ecumenism. With the ascent of the Habsburg Empire, many dreamed of a world-ruling Christian European empire. But with Charles' death, decline again set in. The 16 and 1700s would see the church struggle against threats to its power. These included the rise of Protestantism, the decline of the Spanish and Portuguese empires, conflict between France and Germany, and the emergence of the Ottoman Turks and Protestant Britain as formidable powers. So the church again awaited a leader to champion its cause. A star suddenly emerged in the late 1700s. Napoleon Bonaparte, a young, brash, but brilliant military leader from the French island of Corsica, burst onto the scene. By age 26, he was already commanding the French army in Italy, and by 30 had seized power in France. Ambitious, this student of Roman history dreamed of a resurrected Roman Empire with himself as emperor. He declared himself such in 1804 after snatching the imperial crown from the Pope's hand to crown himself. This goal accomplished, he set about unifying Europe. Napoleon saw many early successes, most notably the defeat of Prussia in 1806. However, one disastrous campaign after another eventually led to his defeat and downfall, first in Russia and then by the British at Waterloo. With his defeat in 1814, 1,260 years of the Holy Roman Empire came to an end. The Vatican had lost another champion. A period of rebuilding in Europe followed. By 1870, Giuseppe Garibaldi had reunited Italy. Otto von Bismarck reunited Germany the following year, calling it the Second Reich. Bismarck then forged an alliance with Italy, rekindling ties to the days of Charlemagne. In the 20th century, Benito Mussolini tried to revive the Holy Roman Empire. He reconciled a long-standing rift between church and state, and even entered into a concordat, an agreement, with the Vatican. But his reign was short-lived. It ended in abysmal failure with his public hanging in 1945. Adolf Hitler's visions of glory for now a Third Reich also failed. But the dream of European unity lived on. After World War II, the European Economic Community was established to improve trade between European nations. This later became the European Union, or EU. With the EU's 2009 ratification of the Lisbon Treaty, replacing the constitution that was struck down in 2005, a giant step was taken to establish the EU as an empowered and unified government, replacing a body of individual, sometimes squabbling member states. The treaty also created a much stronger president. This union has expressly stated that the goal for Europe is to create a world power. But Europe has many problems to overcome. Strong leadership is required. Surveying the scene, the Vatican is troubled by what it sees. In his book, Without Roots, the West, Relativism, Christianity, Islam, Pope Benedict, then Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger, described Europe as having denied its religious and moral foundation. He lamented a continent overtaken by secularism and materialism, a Europe that had slipped into immorality, cultural confusion, and irreligiousness. He saw Europe in danger of being overrun by outside forces. Benedict has also lamented the weakening of European churches, telling a gathering of Italian priests, "There is no longer any evidence of the need for God, let alone Christ. The so-called great churches seem to be dying." Indeed, according to the Center for the Study on Global Christianity, every major religion in Western Europe is declining except Islam. In 1900, almost every European professed Christianity. Today, only 3 out of 4 even identify with Christianity. The number who consider themselves non-religious shot up from less than 1% to 15%. In 12 major European cities, 38% say they never or rarely attend church. France at 60% is the worst. In areas of France, Sweden, and the Netherlands, non-attendance is over 90%. Such statistics threaten the church's very existence. And in a dramatic move, Benedict released a formal statement permitting practicing Anglicans to join the Catholic Church. On the 10th anniversary of the mutual declaration between the World Lutheran Federation and the Catholic Church, the Pope stated, "I sincerely hope that this important anniversary will help bring forward the path towards the full visible unity of all the disciples of Christ." This is a stunning development in Rome's call for every professing Christian, get this, to align with Catholicism. In addition, a Polish cardinal referred to the Pope as one who speaks like a prophet, quote unquote, when referring to the Pope's call for European unity. Prophet may in fact be a word heard more often in regard to the Pope. The Vatican sees a world of secular humanism, of no absolute morals, and devoid of strong leadership. Notice this from Benedict's June 2009 encyclical titled Charity in Truth. Quote, "In the face of the unrelenting growth of global interdependence, there is a strongly felt need for a reform of the United Nations organization, and likewise of economic institutions and international finance, so that the concept of the family of nations can acquire real teeth to manage the global economy, to revive economies hit by the crisis, to avoid any deterioration of the present crisis and the greater imbalances that would result, to bring about integral and timely disarmament, food security and peace, to guarantee the protection of the environment, and to regulate migration. For all this, there is urgent need of a true world political authority, as John the 23rd indicated some years ago. Such an authority would need to be regulated by law to observe consistently the principles of subsidiarity and solidarity, to seek to establish the common good, but ask by whose definition, and to make a commitment to securing authentic integral human development inspired by the values of charity in truth. Also ask, would he have in mind other than Catholic doctrine for such truth? Furthermore, such an authority would need to be universally recognized. Catholic means universal, and to be vested with the effective power to ensure security for all, regard for justice, and respect for rights. Again asked, defined by whom? Obviously, it would have to have the authority to ensure compliance with its decisions from all parties, and also with the coordinated measures adopted in various international forums. They also require the construction of a social order that at last conforms to the moral order. I repeat, defined by whom? To the interconnection between moral and social spheres. By every definition, this vision describes a world government based in Europe, endorsed by and in partnership with the Vatican. Therefore, to achieve such an alliance, the Vatican must find a powerful civil leader. History is the guide. Europe presently faces several crises. The continent is enduring its worst recession since World War II. Bank losses are projected to even exceed U.S. banks. Also, a staggering 20 million EU citizens are now unemployed. 1 in 5 are under age 25. Persistently high unemployment rates are translating into widespread crime, anger, depression, and feelings of hopelessness. Many are turning to extremism. The continent's social fabric is threatened. Immigration is another contentious issue. Large enclaves of immigrants now live in Europe's cities. Due to starkly different cultures and religions, these have not assimilated into traditional European cultures and have no intention of doing so, spawning an anti-immigration backlash. Many citizens fear losing their jobs and culture. This has led to frequent acts of violence in its capitals. Low birth rates are another serious concern. The lack of young workers brings a host of problems. Imploding tax bases, collapsing pension plans, severe industry and military recruiting shortfalls, and inadequate care for the elderly. Political and business leaders are struggling with how to address these problems. Terrorism is another concern. This is fueled by wide open borders and large immigrant populations. Age-old contentions with Islam are flaring up, especially as the big, fast-growing Muslim population becomes more prominent. Energy is also a concern. Europe relies primarily on the Middle East and Russia for its energy needs. The Middle East is a powder keg of instability. Russia is an unpredictable partner and historic enemy. Europe's energy supplies are by no means guaranteed. A possible energy cutoff looms large, a nightmare for Europe's leaders. Moves toward unification have continually met roadblocks with constant bickering between member states. Integration remains a thorny issue. A major challenge has been integrating the newer member countries. Then there is the issue of integrating economies, made worse with the mix of fast and slow-growing ones. Also the Constitution. Even though it has been ratified, it has detractors. These are just a few of the challenges facing the continent. Both Europe and the Vatican seek a strong leader to address great challenges. The Bible is most clear that such a leader will arise. This man will galvanize and unite Europe. Endorsed by and working with a powerful religious leader, he will usher in a time of unmatched prosperity. He will stun the world by reviving the Holy Roman Empire one final time. This man will institute a world political authority with very real teeth. A revitalized Europe will lead the world politically, industrially, financially, and militarily. It will one more time become the world's focus, the axis around which it revolves. Is this speculation? No. It is tomorrow's news written in advance, recorded in Bible prophecy. The Apostle John records in Revelation, "And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy." Beast is the term for a civil government or kingdom, and even for its leader. This beast symbolically represents the Roman Empire from its inception through its 7 historic revivals to its final resurrection in our time. John also speaks of a second 2-horned beast. "And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spoke as a dragon. And he exercises all the power of the first beast before him," the one just discussed, "and causes the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, And he does great wonders, that he makes fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceives them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. This beast is also a government or kingdom, and it gives power to the first beast, the Roman Empire. It appears as a lamb, but speaks as a dragon. In other words, it is not what it seems. It is sinister and evil. This is crucial to understand. Most recognize that Christ is depicted in Scripture as a lamb, but Satan is always depicted as a dragon. Notice. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceives the whole world. So this second beast appears to be of God, but is really of the devil. Its two horns indicate it is not only a government, but also a church. Now ask, what religious organization is both a church and a government? The chilling answer should be plain if you have eyes to see. Notice this second beast gives power to the first, the Roman Empire. This has been happening since Justinian's crowning by the Pope in 554. Since that time, the two entities have always worked closely together. Roman emperors have acknowledged the supreme authority of religion throughout the empire. This will happen again. The growing influence of religion in the EU can be seen in Germany, where a recent high court ruling mandated that businesses close on Sunday, the first day of the week, as a day of rest. Now recall what was decreed at the Council of Laodicea in AD 363, when Sunday keeping was enforced by law. Forgotten and lost is that God commanded the seventh day of the week, his Sabbath, be a day of rest, not the first. Watch the growing power of religion in Europe. The second beast of Revelation 13 will possess such seductive magnetism that it will be able to induce the world to worship the first beast, the Roman Empire, through extraordinary miracles. These will mesmerize the entire world, deceiving vast millions into worship of both the system and the man leading it. History will repeat itself. Soon, two men, one a civil leader, the other a religious leader, will revive the Holy Roman Empire in Europe. This power will return the age-old union of church and state. It will tower over every nation like a colossus, dwarfing all rivals, and it will enforce a mark involving disobedience to God. Those who fall in step with its edicts, who take its mark, will be temporarily spared, but soon after will be punished terribly by God. Most who refuse the mark will be horribly persecuted, tortured, and put to death. However, a few faithful of God's people are foretold to escape. This superpower will proclaim peace in our time, but will ultimately bring horrific destruction. Its attempt to institute a world political authority will ultimately fail, meeting a bitter end described in Revelation 18. After its demise, another world-ruling supergovernment will be established, and this one will succeed. This supreme authority, the kingdom of God, will also have real teeth, but it will bring true freedom, true and lasting peace, as well as true justice and prosperity for all. A qualified leader was long ago selected to lead it, Jesus Christ. Of his soon-coming worldwide reign, Scripture states, "For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder. Of the increase of his government and peace there shall be no end, upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to order it and to establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth even forever. The days of man's misrule upon the earth and of false religions deceitfully masquerading as being of God will finally be over. Peace, justice, and abundance will come at last to a world in desperate need of them. But these things will not come yet. You now know what must precede them. The bad news before the awesome good news. To understand more, much more about the astonishing events foretold to soon occur in Europe, you will want to visit our immense library of truth about prophecy at the rcg.org. That's the rcg.org. The book and booklet titles visible here are only the beginning. Also take time to view my broadcasts on the Book of Revelation, the New World Order, the Antichrist, the Beast of Revelation, the Last Days, and Is the End Near, among others, on prophecy. No one else is explaining the truth about what lies ahead, never mind doing so in depth, and no one else will. May God help you understand all that you have just heard. Until next time, this is David C. Pack saying goodbye, friends.
This program was made available by Restored Church of God members and donors from around the globe. Explore our vast library of literature and other world-to-come programs, which are all made available free of charge. To learn more or to find a local congregation, contact us to receive a personal response from a minister.